we're business partners essentially. You know, we're not husband and wife, and I mean, we are husband and wife, but you know what I mean. But like we are able to.
Not when we walk in these doors. It's game time.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we kind of flip a switch essentially.
Hello and welcome to Center for Victory's podcast of Your Best Day Yet. At Center for Victory, we're here to help reinforce, enrich, unlock relationships through personal and professional development. I'm Eric Guy, Chief Victory Officer at the Center for Victory. With me today, two of my friends. I've been on their podcast, so I'm having them on mine. So welcome, Mark and Paige Perkins.
Thanks for having us.
All right. So we're going to get into some things. You guys have an interesting story, but we're here at the studios of the Pavement Group. You guys have been with the Pavement Group a little bit, and I want to get into that story today, which I think is fascinating. So if you could, though, before we jump in too far, just give a brief overview. I don't know which one of you wants to go first, but if you, she's looking at you, Mark. So if you could just go into some of your background, because I think it's interesting, because we'll talk about it a little bit here.
So Paige and I are both licensed physical therapists. I spent about 8.5 years in the field of clinical practice, and Paige did just over 5.
Yeah, I was actually, I think it was close to 5, if
and,
not over.
We moved up here. Paige is originally from Pittsburgh. I'm not, but we met in South Florida, and we both worked at the same office for her first position, and I eventually got my own office down there, and then we found ourselves up here, and Paige was the first one to leave healthcare and start here at the Pavement Group, and then I wasn't too far behind her. So generally, that's the overview of how we got here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you talk about your backgrounds. What were the challenges of really moving from what you were doing? Because it has nothing to do, really, right?
Lots of challenges.
Okay.
I say this all the time. I feel like there were, not to discredit anything that you did with your transition, but I feel like with me being the first one to take the leap, it definitely was harder on me than it was for you. Would you agree with that? But I mean, emotions were flying, tears were falling. I was a mess. I was like, what am I thinking? Like, I had it at that point in time. I had a opportunity to potentially be like in business development for physical therapy practice. It's actually the company that Mark was working for. They didn't really seem to be interested in me, to be completely honest, but I was following up, and then finally, not that they weren't interested, but I didn't have sales experience, and that's what they were looking for. So finally they were like, you know what? We're interested. Let's keep this interview going. And at that point, I had already interviewed with Brian, and things just went well. I felt instantly that like he felt the value that I could bring, which I hadn't felt in a lot of the interviews that I was looking for to kind of like branch into that sales role. So while I wasn't going to be coming in a sales role, they were willing to train me to get to where I wanted to be, which was huge for me. And that's what I wanted for any company from the beginning of my time interviewing to look to get into sales. I just wanted someone that was able to kind of take me under their wing, give me the training that I needed, because I knew with a little bit of guidance that, you know, I would hopefully be able to achieve my end goal. So when Brian gave me the opportunity, I was like, okay, he's the first person that's really had faith in me. I think this is the opportunity. And while it seemed crazy, I think that summer, you know, we went to the Driftwood, and it was like a week. It's our family timeshare, but we're really close with a lot of the other families that go that aren't a part of our family. And I remember like telling people that I was going to be leaving and working for a paving company, and I think everyone thought I was crazy. However, flash forward to the following year, everyone was like, wow, your company looks so cool. Like, how did you find it? So it came full circle. It was like the first year, you know, it was like, oh my gosh, she's doing something wild. And then the second year, it was completely different. And people asking like how they could get involved, if they could interview as well. So I'm glad I just followed my gut, but it definitely was hard emotionally for me. Thank God I had Mark and my parents that supported me in my decision.
Well, if we could back things up a little bit, what pushed you to even look? Like, were you both kind of looking? Because you know, when you're doing what you're doing with PT, that's no light work to get through school and everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of schooling. It's a lot of work, a lot of internships, and then just to say, hey, look, I'm gonna, that's a hard pivot.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
what pushed it for you?
For me, it was obviously she left first, but it was just I felt completely stagnant in my career. And ever since I had graduated, I had accumulated more accreditations, more letters after my last name, always learning. But in terms of the professional setting and where I was, I didn't really feel like there was a lot of room for growth. And I kind of hit it one day where I was like, is this what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life? Just at this level, making right around the same money. And I thought, once that started creeping in, and as she had made her transition here and seeing just how happy she was and hearing about how cool, and I had exposure to the Paving Group via her. So, I knew how fun this place was and stuff like that. And I thought, you know what, if she can do it and if she did it.
That's what made me nervous though, because he saw the fun.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a lot of what people see. I mean, we promote our fun, and we are a lot of fun, but we work really hard. And, at the time, Mark wasn't necessarily unhappy with his career. Like, you were happy doing what you were doing. Yeah, you were happy doing what you were doing. And I think that scared me because, I mean, he's active. He likes to move. He would get 10,000 steps in the clinic running all around chasing people. And I'm like, are you going to be okay sitting at a desk? Because, I mean, that's a big part of what our day looks like. I mean, we can take a phone call and walk around a little bit, but I'm like, just because I like something doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to like it. I mean,
multiple times she would bring it up. So
I'm like, yes, we do a lot of fun things, but it's a lot of work. And are you going to like standing in one spot or sitting in one spot, And he was like, no, I think I'll be okay with it. I'm like, okay. I said, I just don't want you to think that I'm persuading you to do something, because I'm like, I want it to be your decision. If it doesn't work out, I don't want it to be like, well, you told me it was gonna be great, And I did think it was gonna be great, but obviously there's some details that I wasn't sure if we're going to work as well for him.
Now, when she first went, Mark, did you think she was crazy, or you kind of understood it?
Not at all. I mean, I knew where she was coming from. It's not something that she dropped out of the blue on me. And
it had been like years that I had been looking. We can get into that once he's done.
But looking back on it, we set, her ultimate goal at the time was to get into medical sales for like devices or, medical sales
like
devices.
Stryker or something.
Yeah. And she wasn't catching any luck there. And, Eli's wife was my front desk at the first office I opened up here. And
when you were working as
when I was working as a physical therapist, and she would talk about the Pavement Group and, how well Eli was doing and this. And I said, okay, well, like, are they hiring? Yeah. And then whenever, we were trying to get her sales, position for medical devices, like, well, why don't you just go and check it out and see what happens? I was like, worst case scenario, you stick it out for 6 months. It's horrible, but at least you get something salesy that you can put on your resume and we can go forward. I said, or, 3 years from now, we look back and say this decision completely changed the course of our lives together. And so far it's going that way. So.
Yeah.
Going back to something else you said about transferable skills and how it's completely different. She and I talk about this all the time. You don't have to be a physical therapist to be organized, right? But a lot of what I do, specifically now more than her because she's in sales, but my job in supporting her is being extremely organized. And the way that transfers is like documenting on a patient, because it's a legal record, and documenting on the project you're working. They go hand in hand. I talked to this guy today. He said he'd go on site today. I'm going to follow back up here. Bam, it's on a note. So in case something would ever happen to me or someone ever clicks in that file, they know exactly what's going on, where it's going on. And that's, you don't have to be a PT to do that, but I knew that I would, once I learned the software and stuff like that, I could succeed and do pretty well.
And relationships. I mean, there's, like you said, there's so many transferable skills, but relationships, I mean, we had to build those relationships with our clients. I mean, who wants to be at physical therapy? Usually they're in pain, they're hurting, and, you have to make them feel good and like feel like they're listened to. And that's a big part of what we do still. I think making, people have a problem here in the asphalt industry. What is the problem and how can we solve it? And that's essentially what we were doing in physical therapy as well. What body part is hurting you? Let's assess it and let's figure out a problem to solve it. So there's a lot of things that can...
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I wanted to bring it up, because if anybody's listening to this, we have a large following of younger people.
Yeah.
And, you know, I did the same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I was in social work.
Yeah.
And it was my graduate work was in that. I had my license. I still have my license. And I didn't know if that was going to be okay if I went into business. And when I got in, I was like, oh, this is actually easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not dealing with, I mean, you're still dealing with problems, but it's not like coming at you, you know, 80 miles an hour. But it, you know, that transferable skill, I think some people don't know how that relates. And I mean, that's a huge jump for you. It was a huge jump for me. And I just want to reemphasize that for folks.
Right. And I think too, if you have the team around you, I mean, not that we didn't have great coworkers, but I feel like a lot of the people that we worked with felt the same way I did specifically. I know he didn't, but like I just didn't feel fulfilled anymore. I felt like there were a lot of things changing in the healthcare world. Yes, I felt kind of stagnant, but I mean, I felt like it was always do more, see more, bill more, and it wasn't about what the patient needed. And that is why I went to school. I went to school to help people, and we'd have these meetings, and it was like, well, so-and-so, you know, maybe we should have gone this route with, you know, how we, you know, put together their billing. And I'm just like, well, but they need this. But it's like, you're persuaded to do this because they would never say it was about money, but those, you know what I mean? Like it was, they were trying to make money, which I understand it's a business, but I'm like, I have, you know, I have my doctorate. I have 7 years of school under my belt. I went to school to be able to make these decisions in the best capacity.
I'm licensed for a reason.
Yeah, I'm licensed for a reason. And I took all these exams and put all this hard work in and late nights in the library for a reason, because I wanted to have the most recent knowledge and, you know, studies that we, you know, used to formulate all these, you know, clinical prediction roles and all this stuff so that I could best help my patients. And if I wasn't able to do things the way I wanted, I mean, we did all of the manual certifications and, you know, we're supposed to be hands-on with the patients, but then I feel like as it swayed away from being reimbursed less for that, it was like that wasn't as much of a focus.
Yeah, don't spend so much time on that.
And we went through 2 years of additional schooling outside of our 7 for that. And it just was disheartening. So I felt like I wasn't making the impact that I wanted anymore, which is kind of why I went to leave and look other directions. Not that I didn't want to make an impact, I just knew I could make an impact in a different way. So
that's a good point. And I hope everybody listened to that. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So I work with my spouse, right? And Mark, you haven't met her yet, but Paige met her when we went through the canyon. And you know, I think we figured it out. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but what's your experience so far working at the same place together?
So we worked together. I don't know if you actually knew this. We worked together. Well, he mentioned at the beginning. We worked together in healthcare. Not for it was like, what, a year and a half, 2 years. And then you got your promotion and he went to a different clinic. And honestly, like no one knew that we even dated when we were working together. We didn't know how it would be taken by, you know, upper management, if they would, you know, I don't know what they would, I don't know, fired me. I don't really know, but we just didn't want to even see. I mean, I had just moved down there from here. If I had to find a new job, that would have been, you know, difficult. And so we just kind of kept it under the radar. And then finally, as like holidays started approaching and we were starting to do those things together, we felt as though we needed to you know, tell our management, and everyone was fine with it. But I felt like we didn't really have much time to interact. I mean, not that, I feel like that's the thing. Like in a work setting, we're busy and we're business partners, essentially. You know, we're not husband and wife, and I mean, we are husband and wife, but you know what I mean? But like we are able to.
Not when we walk in these doors, it's game time.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we kind of flip a switch, essentially. I mean, but I think the biggest thing that I've noticed, I mean, do we always get along or agree on everything throughout the day? No. But I think where we do very well is our ability to like forgive very quickly. Like I'll say something, it'll make him irritated. He'll walk away. He'll come back 5 minutes later. He's fine. I think I do the same. So I don't know. I think you can't hold on to stuff. You have to just kind of roll with it. I mean, things are hectic. Things are stressful on certain days. And, you know, we're a team and we work together, but there's obviously going to be things that present that, you know, ruffle the feathers a little bit.
I feel like compared from physical therapy to now, it's harder to turn this off when we get home. Would you agree? I feel like because especially when we worked in the same office, it's like I heard what that patient said to you.
Yeah.
She could say the same thing, like I heard what he said to you, and like you don't need to like rehash. Like I was there, I heard it, but like with this because it's ongoing and things can happen after hours and stuff. I feel like it's a little bit harder to kind of turn off the work talk at home. But I mean,
with that being said, do you think
it's hard to talk about? And sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but it's funny because I was probably like 2 weeks ago. I was like, can we talk about something else that's not work? And then we talked, and then like 4 minutes later, I'm like, about that like job. Like you just can't turn it off sometimes, especially when it's on your mind and you're both involved and it's affecting both of our incomes. Like, you're gonna want to bring it up. So,
but I think a lot of the times I notice that even when we're not talking about like a job that we're working on, we're talking about the people that we work with because these are all of our friends. Like they're our family, and like I think that's a big part of it because we love everyone that works here. And I think that's why it's sometimes so hard to remove ourselves. It's like, because when we're talking about something, even if it's not a job, it's like, oh, well, did you hear about, so-and-so and, what they have going on? And I don't know. Or, oh, why don't we invite Eli and Angel to come over? It's still like always work people. And, but I think it's a good thing. I mean.
Now with the shift over here, really, and this gets into my next question, looking at things that are going on here. I mean, obviously you both have said, individually, and when we've talked, you enjoy working here. And has that made it even better for you guys? I mean, it's kind of a dumb question, but
no,
I mean,
it's not a dumb question at all.
Has it made it better for you guys?
I mean, I think it makes me work a lot harder. That I enjoy it, and that I want to be successful. I want people to respect me in this company.
Yeah.
To see like the growth I've already had and how much way more road there is to learn about this industry. But I don't want to let anyone on this team down, and I don't want to be the reason why, if we look at the around the room at the end of the year and if, we don't hit this goal, like I don't want my name to be on that list of like, well, if you just worked a little bit harder, like every day I enter with that mindset of just do whatever I can as much as I can the right way. So
how would you explain what keeps you here?
So much. So I feel like being a part of a team is huge. A team that like all supports each other and literally wants the person next to them to grow just as much as themselves. Like I mean, everyone wants everyone to achieve those big goals that we have set. But I think the fact that Brian is here and in this office and available to us anytime we need. And he truly cares about us. And I never had that. I mean, I know, not that I didn't ever have that. That's not fair. But like, I don't feel as though it's anywhere near as much time that Brian spends with, like just to pop into our office or, he like gave me a book last year that he thought I would really like. And like things like that. I mean, they're small, but I've talked about that so many times and it's made such an impact on me. And I've shared that story with others because things like that don't really happen elsewhere.
Shows that someone's actually thinking about you. It's not like an obligatory thing. Like that was a very personal touch. And to piggyback off that, it's not just Brian, it's everyone in leadership. People at the highest levels of this company are extremely accessible and very personal. And it's not like you're bothering them wasting time. They I love getting a call from everyone, but like Tony Grout or talking with Todd on the phone, like love that. And like I said, it's not like I have to jump through hoops or I feel like I'm harassing them or bothering them. Like I'm completely comfortable picking up that phone and calling the CEO, the COO, doesn't matter. And I think that is huge for me. There's an extreme level of comfort in knowing that like, oh my God, like who do I have to, no, if I have a question, like there's no doubt that I can call whoever I need to and it's great. So.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So let's shift gears a little bit. I was on your show, Perks and Paving, right? Again, it seems funny because you have a show called Perks and Paving.
Yeah.
And maybe it should be Perks of PT.
Yeah.
Or it would have been years ago, right?
Yeah.
I just wanted to know what inspired you guys to kind of do that.
I have no idea.
That's a really funny question.
Vinny legitimately showed up in her office with a camera one day, and that's how this whole thing got created. That is total honesty. No one asked for this. We didn't ask for a podcast. We didn't.
Our friends will be like, "Oh, like saw your podcast, everything." And we're like, "Well, I mean, we didn't really ask for one, but it just kind of happened that way." But yeah, I had gotten a promotion in the fall. And Vinny came in to give me a little shout out, let me have a little clip for, something that they were posting on social media. And at the end, just jokingly, he turns around and is like, "What's the name of the podcast?" And I rattled Perks and Paving off, and he was like,
wow.
"Boom, you have
I
a
did
podcast."
not hear that story.
So,
That's new to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
And they just literally showed up in our office with a camera, and that's how this thing got started.
yeah. And
wonderful.
I think it's been hard. I mean, for me, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm like, what do I have to say that people are going to want to listen to? And I always feel like I've told my story. That's it. Like, I have one story, and not that I don't have other funny stories, but I think the thing that people initially wanted me to share, I'm like, well, once we tell that, like, what do we say? Like, where do we go from there?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's been interesting to see how the show has evolved, and it's kind of put us out of our comfort zones, but also like made us think a little bit more than we would have had to had we not had the show.
No.
And rekindled some old relationships. Like, I just had my college track coach on our show on Wednesday yesterday. So I don't know. It's nice to have the opportunity to connect with people. We're gonna have some cool guests coming up. So yeah, I mean it's been interesting. It's fun.
I mean, truly spoiled rotten for like us to be legit given a podcast, but to be like do it in a studio like this is like. I mean, how many hundreds of thousands of people are trying to make their podcast in their garage, something like that, and like we have this awesome platform, just kind of like, here you go, just make some of it. It's very awesome, but it's not something we planned on when we came.
Yeah,
here,
the
so.
nice thing is you have people to put it together too.
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
huge.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, that's what
they are the absolute rock stars of the company.
Oh my gosh.
Everyone in the media team, including Jesse over there in the booth, like
Yeah.
they're just absolutely crushing it. So
Well, that's what my track coach, when he was on, he was like, because I was telling him, well, what time do you want to, pencil yourself in? I'm going to have to reach out to the media team, see if that works for them, and, have them set up the studio. And he was like, you have to reach out to the media team. Like, he doesn't realize this is a whole production. He's like, you work at a paving company.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know. But and
it's
then
also
we
like
told
the number
him,
one question like brought up, like, you have a podcast, but you're in asphalt and concrete. I'm like,
and then we told him that the King of Uganda was on last week. He's like, I'm going to be on in the same podcast. I mean, it wasn't our podcast, but in the same studio that they had the King of Uganda. He's like, that's pretty cool. I'm like, I know. So, but yeah, I mean, we're doing off the wall crazy things, and it's fun. And
I think he actually that King. I think he tuned in. It was yesterday or the day before. I saw him say hello to everybody on.
I think I saw it too.
On Brian's show.
Very cool.
It's like
very cool.
Yeah, it was
very
good.
Cool.
Well, any key takeaways from your podcast? Any fun things that you're learning during this time? Because you were really thrown into it. You had no experience with it.
Yeah.
I think I've been on your show. I think it's pretty good.
I think just going into it from the beginning, I'm far more relaxed. Like coming in here, like there's still a little bit of nerves after like first 5 minutes. Oh, it's all good. But I mean, just be relaxed and just be yourself. Like we're not trying to pretend to be people we're not.
Yeah.
And it's just casual and.
Yeah, and I think the main basis of our show has kind of evolved into having people feel more comfortable and like learning about other people's transitions, whether it's in their career or, in a relationship or whatever it is. Like, there's going to be things in life that are hard, and you're not going to know what the outcome is going to be until you jump into whatever it is that you're considering jumping into. But I think you can always go back. You can always do what you were already doing in the past again, but kind of giving people that, insight to like how to go about doing that and inspire people to take those leaps. So it's been fun to share people's stories other than our own. So
yeah. So our podcast, of course, is called Your Best Day Yet. So I'm going to ask this of both of you so you can decide who goes first here again. How do you, Paige and Mark, how do you define your best day yet in both personal and professional aspects?
For me, my best day is being honest with myself personally in terms of the goals I set for myself, for my physical goals, our financial goals, and staying disciplined. And professionally is following through on things I promise people that I'm going to get done. And not, again, I use this phrase up, like letting someone down, whether it's her on my team or if it's another salesperson, like it's a gut punch. You never want to be the guy who's like, oh, I didn't get it in time or stuff like that. So following through on my promises, not only to my coworkers, but to myself is
you took that question different than I I was going to tell you literally like past tense, like what my best day was.
Okay, keep going. It's wide open.
I hope it's not already gone because it's like yet to come. You know?
Oh, no. I mean, there's going to be more best days, but like up until this point, I think professionally speaking, as funny as it is, since I'm not in healthcare anymore, but graduating from PT school was the best day. Like I think regardless of where I went from there, that kind of set, like that was the start of my career, and I worked so hard to get there, first of all. I mean, there were times where I'm like, am I even gonna make, you know what I mean? It was tough. I mean, that was the hardest 3 years of my life. And I think once I accomplished that, I felt like I could accomplish anything. So from there, I mean, it's still, I mean, it led me to you. I mean, I seriously, so I went, so I graduated from PT school in Ohio, at Ohio University. And then I had moved down to Florida. I had gone down there previously for my rotation when I was in my last year of school. So I had already known Mark, but I would have never gone down there for rotation had I not been in PT school. I would have never moved down there had I not become a PT. So I think that was like a very important part of my life so far. But personally, I mean, our wedding was awesome.
Yeah.
Our wedding was amazing. So did we ever tell you the story?
No, I have not heard this one.
I can answer the question from her perspective professionally, if we're going to take it from that point of view, like in terms of that. Okay. I was going to say, like, since this company was, for me, was when at Christmas party, I won Rookie of the Year award. So on my application, or like on my paperwork on the first day, I think one of the sections was like, what are your goals or whatever? And I wrote down, I still have it in my thing, I want to be one of the most influential hires in TPG history. And I said, in order to have a career like that, it has to start with that award. And that was my goal, like on day one. And when I got that, because it's voted on by everyone. It's not like management.
I don't know if I knew that you wrote it down on the paper.
Yeah. I can go bring it. I'll pull it up. But
yeah, that's
very cool.
That was, for an asphalt career, that was my best day yet so far. So, because it was just the beginning.
Yeah. So. Love that. But yeah, our wedding was crazy. So it was during COVID. We had just moved back. So Mark had gotten a job as a physical therapist here in Pittsburgh. We made the move back, and we both had about a month and a half off from work. So we were struggling at that point, trying to figure out, like, where do we actually get married in the middle of COVID? We were like, do we just, have a small wedding? Do we not have anything at all? And we wait, or I don't know. We were going round and round and round. And then finally, he goes, do you just want to go get married? He's like, I just want to call you my wife. That's what he said.
Yeah. So I'm sick and tired of not being able to call you my wife. Yeah. I said, let's pick a spot that you've never been to, that I've never been to, and let's go. So
we literally Googled the coolest places to elope, and we landed on Moab, Utah. We also had a handful of coworkers in the PT world that had gone and visited. That's the summer beforehand. We're like, oh, it's so beautiful. I mean, every person we knew that we worked with had gone out there, and then. Yeah. So, I mean, at that point, I was looking to get a dress within weeks, so nailed that down, got everything. I mean, it was days before, and I was still getting it altered and stuff. So, I mean, this was very last minute. It was simple though. So, I mean, we got our photographer. That was like the main thing that we had to lock in, and everything worked with her date wise. And from there, like, she helped with all of our vendors all of our vendors. We had a florist, and we had someone make us cupcakes. Yeah.
2 vendors.
I think that might have been, and we had the makeup and hair. Oh, yeah. I did, not you. So yeah, we had a few vendors, but she helped plan all that. She helped plan the day, and we literally just like frolicked around Moab in the national parks and took some really cool photos, and read our vows as the sun was setting on like one of the most beautiful areas that I've ever seen, and had our first dance. Our phone died because this was at the end of like a full day. Our phone died with the song that I wanted, and it was like actually a song that made. So we're there, and I had no idea. I don't know if she knew, but there were like a handful of women above us, like several feet above us, and they were watching the whole thing. I had no idea what was up there, and then her phone died,
And she's like, oh no. And then out of nowhere, you hear this voice like, what song is it? I'll play it. And I thought, and then they put it on their phone and finished it out for us.
So yeah, in the middle of Canyonland, like this woman's just like echoing her iPhone to like have our song for our first dance. So, but yeah, we won't forget it. So,
yep.
But yeah, so it was pretty cool. And then when we came home, we did something with our family just so that they could have their moment with us. We didn't want them to like not feel included. So we finalized things with the judge like a week later up on Mount Washington. So yeah.
Another nice place.
Yeah.
So cold.
It was so
freezing.
Cold. So cold. And his parents are from Florida, or live in Florida now.
Yeah.
So they were not very thrilled with the temperature that day, but yeah, it was a good time. So
well, future plans. What are you both looking forward to doing together? Any future big plans now that you've been married a couple years?
Couple times.
Yeah, 3 to be exact. Yeah. Actually, there was one we didn't tell you about, but we'll save that for another time. Marathon.
We have the marathon coming up. Primary focus right now, marathon.
Yeah. So
and hopefully you wait for me at the finish line.
Yeah. Or I don't know. We'll see who beats who there first. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Those times that you were putting in scared me already. So
well, I did. I mean,
for someone who has not really run much in their life, you do very, very well.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, when I first met him, he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go for a walk," and I'm like, "Why are you gonna walk?" You know. But now, I mean, I love walking now, but at the time, it just like wasn't something. I had just finished a few years prior running track in college, and I just was still in, running mode. So, but yeah, now you've gotten into your running, and I don't know. I'm very, very impressed by you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Last point here. Any key pieces of advice for folks that are listening and watching of lessons learned or anything you'd like to share with our listeners?
I say this on like every podcast I go on, but whether you're in a job that you've been in for a decade or you're starting something new, is you always say yes for an opportunity to learn. Never say no. Doesn't matter what the time, make the time for it. Because that's the only way you're going to grow. You just don't open yourself to any outside or any new exposure. You're never going to be able to excel or do what you want to do or go where you want to go. And
I think a lot of the times that change is hard. You commit to something, maybe a career when you're 18 years old, and 7 years later you feel like kind of guilty when you're not in it anymore. But like I think it's okay if your heart and soul don't align with your current goals. Like it's okay to change directions, and like dreams evolve, and I don't think it's a sign of growth. And I think people who are able to put themselves in that position to be vulnerable and maybe go outside of their comfort zone. I mean, there's so much, life is too short, and it's not worth it to go through life being unhappy. So, take the risk, make the move, take the jump, and see where life brings you. So.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. I appreciate it. I hope to have you back.
Yeah, of course. Maybe after the marathon.
Yeah. Well, that'd be great. But I do think you have a lot to offer. Just in that story.
Yeah.
Just because there are a lot of people like that.
Yeah.
Because I hear it every day. Like I don't know. I took this. I went to school for this. Now I want to do that. No, that's okay. Like you can make it happen. Those skills are transferable, especially for a lot of young people. I think because there's not a lot of guidance there. But so I appreciate that, and hopefully we can have you back on soon.
For sure.
That's all for today, folks. Really appreciate you hanging in there and listening and watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. You can visit us at centerforvictory.com, and just remember, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, make sure you make this your best day yet. We'll see you soon.